I'm Oni. What's good, everybody? So, here's another news watch. I guess you could say this is another controversial topic, but I thought it would be necessary to cover this though, because there's lots of questions that are presented in this, and I thought it was very helpful to present questions, or at least to utilize this to ask questions. So, let's watch.
3 weeks after the first case of coronavirus was reported on ASU's campus, the state is now nearing 200,000 cases, adding another 311 today. The coronavirus
Question. This brings up my first question here is this aspect of reporting cases or the total cases. I even looked up the website. It seems to me from the website that when they present that total cases, that is literally accumulated numbers from March, maybe even February. I don't know, probably not February, but all the way from March. And as you saw, he, presented the 311 added cases. They never really take away cases, though. And I understand that's probably really difficult to do, almost impossible, probably. But you have to think, like, people don't stay sick for forever. You know? I mean, just from my own personal experience, I'm pretty sure I got the virus back in like February, and I had it for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, but about a week and a half or so. But I got better, and moved forward, and I would think that it's like human nature that people would recover eventually. I even on the website again, I saw a statistic concerning chronic medical conditions, and I didn't know if that was specifying between underlying conditions or people having a reoccurrence of symptoms from the virus. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was just talking about underlying conditions though. So I'm not sure how prevalent it is people having the, you know, conditions continue per se.
cost at least 4,100 Arizonans their lives so far this year. That's hard to swallow, and it may have contributed to up to 3,000 more deaths in our state. It's been a dire year. Nobody can argue deaths are up dramatically, especially last month with a 58% increase. We reported on this increase last week, and on social media, it caused quite a stir, with some people trying to poke holes in how deaths are linked to COVID. We have found no evidence to show something other than the virus has been to blame for that stark increase. But ABC 15 data analyst Garrett Archer and reporter Nicole Grigg did uncover inconsistencies in how state and county health officials classify a small portion of COVID-related deaths.
Inconsistencies in the data kind of just makes the whole project per se need to be, thrown out, start over, make sure you have a clean slate. So that's kind of odd.
A new report by the Arizona Public Health Association looking at the number of deaths per capita over the past 10 years. The purple line shows 2020, and it's a 58% increase in deaths in July from this year to last year per capita to calculate in population growth.
I think it's obvious that it's tied to the pandemic.
Will Humble with the Arizona Public Health Association confirms there were 7,100 deaths in the first 7 months of 2020. 4,100 of those deaths are known from COVID-19. So this suggests that an additional 3,000 deaths during this period may be indirectly attributable to the pandemic.
Obviously, the biggest impact has to do with just the people who died directly of COVID-19. But the secondary effects are really from
This guy's last name is Humble. I hope that's accurate.
delayed care, people who didn't go into their primary care doctor or a specialist, because of the pandemic.
But new questions tonight about how are deaths counted. ABC.
You notice on the bottom graphic there, let me change it a little bit. This bottom graphic says inconsistencies in small percentage of cases. How do you know it's only a small percentage? you should get rid of the word small. If you see that, that's a subconscious way of trying to get something in your mind there, without really presenting any information to you. And so it just creates your bias. There's no reason to have the word small in there. It should just be inconsistencies in percentage of cases, or whatever it is in the cases, how we account the cases. And as we continue to listen to this segment, you'll find out why.
C15 learning that Maricopa County counts people who die with the disease, even if the disease was not the cause of the death.
I want to reassure everyone that every single person who has COVID-19 listed anywhere on their death certificate is in fact counted.
It was during a press conference.
That's I don't know if that's I don't know what word I would want to use. If that's disturbing, or just noticing that she used the word reassure. It's almost like, hey, don't worry. Just don't worry. If COVID was nearby, oh yeah, it got him, bro. It got him. That's once again though, in all seriousness though, it's almost this aspect of, hey, just this COVID thing, it's just, we're not really about looking for the truth or the facts. That's all involved in the situation. Just be assured of that. We are not looking for the hardcore truth.
Last week that a top health official in Maricopa County said this about counting deaths.
Even if it's not listed on their death certificate, anyone who has a COVID-19 positive test within a certain period of when they died is also counted as a COVID-19 positive death.
In Maricopa County, anyone who
Once again, keep in mind, she said assure you. It's almost like they want people just to think anything bad that's going on is just attributed only to COVID. I know there's a lot of cases out there where people are having a lot of underlying conditions, and so there has to be something said for those things. And once again, obviously it's a pandemic, but truth still matters.
as positive for COVID-19 within 60 days of dying is counted as a COVID-19 death. Asking for more clarification, we learned that the largest county in Arizona will count you as a COVID-19 death if you die in a car accident and tested positive in that time frame, although they say fatal accidents are a small subset of the total. But just last month,
that doesn't even matter. That doesn't even matter if it's a small or not. I mean, you gotta consider all the other deaths and whatever they maybe contribute to. 60 days is a long time. Like, my gosh. Keep in mind also that influenza, pneumonia, they're all either, those numbers are very strange, whatever's going on with those things. Either they're being conflated together when you look at the statistics, or they're not being set. Who knows? Just look at those numbers also. Very, very strange.
Public Health Director in Arizona, Dr. Kara Chris, said that does not happen.
So if somebody is COVID-19 positive and is in a car accident that has nothing to do with the COVID, they are not going to be counted in the COVID numbers.
That was part of a phone interview with ABC 15 data analyst Garrett Archer in trying to understand how COVID-19 deaths are counted.
In the conversation, she did mention that, the attendant physician is primarily responsible for figuring out or coding the death certificate if it is a COVID-19 death or not.
We reached out to health officials about contradicting statements, the Department of Health Services not clarifying anything, instead sending us an old blog on how deaths are reported with no direct answers.
If you back up.
So, as you can see, it's just unfortunate because people's lives are changing. Some people's lives are even getting destroyed. And it's all based off of measures and policies and guidelines that the predicate for those measures are not solid. They're not consistent. like, as if you guys noticed the date, that, whatever her name is, Chris, that was back in July. And then you had the other lady talking in August and totally saying the opposite. So it's just, it's crazy.
A second and say, let's concede that there's different ways to count a death as it relates to COVID-19 or not. Let's just look at all-cause mortality for a second. And if you look at all-cause mortality, that doesn't lie. Those are people that die, period.
In those deaths,
That is true, sir. But truth matters. Truth matters.
still without a definite cause, he likely account for some. But Humble says a Pima County Medical Examiner report shows no data to support other spikes in causes of deaths outside of COVID.
And so, to me, I think at least we couldn't find any data to suggest that it was an increase, that there was an increase in suicides or opioid poisonings.
In Phoenix, Nicole Grigg, ABC 15, Arizona.
So, I just really wanted to go through that just because there's questions. At the very least, there's questions. I know a lot of social media and families within dinner tables, whatever. There's arguments going on back and forth and a lot of unnecessary stress. I feel like if the questions are asked, at least both parties can kind of start looking through the same lens, hopefully, when they ask questions. Hopefully it leads in the right way. So can at least be more common ground and a bit more peace with this whole situation. And, the truth helps. It causes hurt, but at the same time, eventually it helps. So I just wanted to add this other segment right here. It kind of goes along with my previous segment talking about questions and just aspects of this whole conversation that, at least in my mind, it just doesn't, it deserves a question because things are not really solid. There's not really a lock solid method about how we're going about this, and it doesn't really make any sense. And questions kind of lead to hopefully getting things on track, So I just want to add this. If those of you know, if you've seen this interview, this was a at least in the Twitter world, it was a very a trending on Twitter type of thing, where I guess throughout this interview, supposedly Trump stumbled a lot. I didn't watch it. I really just focused in on this little section right here that I saw, as scrolling around or whatever, and it kind of once again kind of catered to this whole narrative of, or I don't know, I shouldn't say narrative, but aspect of just questions that I feel like are not being asked. So I just want to ask them. But anyways, let me play this real quick.
The figure I look at is death. And death is going up now.
Okay,
and it's 1,000 a day.
If you look at death...
Yeah, it's going up again.
Let's look.
Daily death.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death...
Yeah. It's started to go up
here's
again.
One. Well, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Oh man, his statements are funny.
Lower than
We're
the
lower
world.
than
What is that?
Europe.
In what?
Look.
In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
you can't do that. You have
Why
to go,
can't I do that?
You have to go by. You have to go by where. Look, here is the United States. You have to go by the cases. The cases.
Why
are
not
there.
as a proportion of
when
population?
we have somebody, what it says is when you have somebody.
I just wanted to point that out because the guy's making funny faces and stuff, but you gotta wonder, like, just like it kind of touched on this a little bit. You can't go by the population because that is an all-inclusive statistic. That is an all-inclusive statistic. You have to go by cases because that is what's the conversations are pertaining to. You can't, just be like, oh, this guy died in a car accident, it's related to COVID. This guy died, because he choked on something, it's related to COVID. That doesn't, based on how he, maybe he doesn't mean that, I don't know. But I'm asking the question because I don't know. It really, really sounds like what this reporter is presenting is just, oh, well, based on everybody dying, therefore, you're not doing good as in your presidency because everyone's dying. It's like, well, that's not related to what I'm trying to stop. If he's just trying to stop COVID deaths and do whatever he can, concerning that issue, if somebody's dying in a car accident or jumping off of a bridge, like, how can he stop that? That doesn't make any sense. Now, once again, maybe he may not be referring to that in that way that I'm talking about it. Maybe. I don't know. It really, really doesn't seem that way, though. But these are the aspects of what the narrative seems to be like when you're watching the news and what the media presents to us, and that doesn't make any sense. Let me know in the comments if I'm, misinterpreting anything or if I'm properly dissecting this, but I don't know. It's just, once again, questions. Testing. I'm just playing. Oh, Nancy. But with that being said, though, I'm on you guys.